What's up, Taiwan? I'm Jaime Ocon with 10 minutes of news from here in Taiwan and around the world. After Saturday's local elections, candidates were out hitting the streets to show their appreciation to the people who voted. All eyes were on the winner and the losers in the Taipei mayoral race, as Eric Gao reports.
Taipei Mayor-elect Zhang Wan-an spent Sunday thanking his supporters. Zhang, from the main opposition Kuomintang, won the capital's leadership race on Saturday night, claiming 42% of the vote. At 43 years old, he will be Taipei's youngest ever elected mayor. Zhang prevailed against his two main rivals, the ruling Democratic Progressive Party's Chen Sizong and independent former deputy Taipei mayor Vivian Huang. With his victory secured, attention is turning to who he will appoint to his governing team. But for now, he's remaining low-key.
我们都在规划，我想最重要的就是专心在施政的推动。
Local media have speculated that Zhang could invite Huang to return to her previous post as one of his deputies. But like Zhang, she's not making any commitments.
先卸票再说，先卸票再说吧。大家都急着帮我找工作嘛，我想清楚了就会跟大家说。台北市的蒋万安。
Zhang will be sworn in as Taipei mayor on Christmas Day. This gives him just under a month to finish thanking supporters and decide on a team. Klein Wong and Eric Gao for TaiwanPlus.
Now over to some international news. Protests have flared in China as crowds took to the streets to oppose ongoing pandemic restrictions. China has a zero-COVID approach to the virus. While its cases are low compared to many other countries, they have hit record highs in recent days. Around 40,000 new infections were reported on Monday, Louise Watt reports.
Mounting anger in China against strict COVID measures is morphing into a wave of opposition that the ruling Communist Party hasn't seen in decades. These protesters in Shanghai on Sunday calling for no more lockdowns. The demonstrations against China's unwavering zero-COVID approach began on Friday and have spread to other cities, including the capital Beijing, where demonstrators held up blank pieces of paper, a protest symbol against censorship.
上海已经有很多人被抓进去了，不只是昨天晚上。他们是为了大家，是为了所有人，是为了每一个骑手不被封在家里，为了大家能够吃上药，能够吃上饭。我们应该声援这些更勇敢的人。上海放人！上海放人！
Protests have also spread to dozens of universities. In Beijing, these students called for democracy and the rule of law and freedom of speech. Public anger has grown as 3 years into the COVID-19 pandemic, China continues its policy of trying to stamp out all trace of the virus. And that has meant mass lockdowns and daily testing of millions of people. One trigger was a fire last week that killed 10 people in an apartment building in Urumqi in the Xinjiang region, where some had been locked in their homes for 4 months. Online questions were raised whether these restrictions had stopped people escaping. China's economy has also been suffering, a point made by protesters confronting police. Throughout the pandemic, the Chinese government has told its people strict restrictions are necessary to keep them safe. But as they watch the World Cup and see spectators packed together, not wearing masks, they have increasingly questioned what the government has been telling them. Police have been detaining people, but authorities are struggling to put down these protests. This is a very different China than that portrayed at the Communist Party conference last month, when President Xi Jinping was anointed for an unprecedented third term, seemingly making him the most powerful Chinese leader in decades. Now, discontent over his strict COVID policies is leading to demonstrations of anger. unfamiliar manifestations openly challenging his rule. Patrick Chen and Louise Watt for TaiwanPlus.
Staying in Asia, North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un says he intends for his country to have the world's most powerful nuclear force. Kim made the statement during a ceremony on Sunday. At the same event, he also promoted dozens of military officers involved in the test launch of a new ballistic missile last week. Known as the Hwasong-17, the weapon is one of the most powerful in North Korea's arsenal. This year, North Korea has conducted a record number of weapons tests, firing more than 70 missiles. In other international news, Canada unveiled its long-awaited strategy for enhancing security and economic cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region, while calling out international aggression from China.
China is an increasingly disruptive global power. And as India, the world's largest democracy, becomes the most populous country in the world, its strategic importance and leadership will only increase. The North Pacific, our neighborhood alongside Japan and South Korea, is facing real security threats from North Korea as it continues reckless missile launches, and from China, who continues to challenge international norms.
Canada's plan was announced on Sunday. It outlines over $1.5 billion in spending for the next 5 years. Funds will go to strengthening the country's naval presence, enhancing cybersecurity capacity, and building trade ties throughout the Indo-Pacific. The Canadian government also said it has experienced the impact of China's coercive diplomacy and non-market trade practices. Although recognizing the One China policy, Canadian officials said they would oppose unilateral actions that threaten the status quo of the Taiwan Strait. Back in Taiwan, the country's first domestically made weather satellite, the Triton, is expected to go into space in March next year. That's according to the National Space Organization. The satellite completed a full test of its functions last week, and Triton will have technology developed by Taiwan to look at ocean wind patterns and make weather forecasts more accurate. The head of Taiwan's space agency says the satellite program will help build up the country's aerospace industry. The proper handling of historic artifacts has been a topic of conversation in Taiwan after staffers at the National TaiwanPlus Museum damaged several pieces in late 2022. Erica reports on how a museum in central Taiwan preserves the items in its collection.
It's a complicated process getting into the storage area of Taichung City's National Museum of Natural Science. Staffers need to pass a facial recognition scan and then step on a special mat to clean contaminants off their shoes. This is all to protect the items inside, like these 80-year-old embroidered clothing items from the indigenous Daiyan people. The museum also holds these land contracts from the Qing dynasty, written over 300 years ago.
尽量做一些措施，让它不要快速的去劣化。那当然，文物它慢慢，它的生命一定是在递减。那但是只是说，递减的速度不要这么快。
To preserve all these items, the museum has 19 storage areas, each with precisely controlled climate conditions.
确定要把这个藏品拿下去的前提是展场的温湿度的条件，还有就是安全性都要非常的确定。
To extend the life of the relics, the museum is working to digitize its collection.
然后因为每一次翻动可能就是一次的损伤，所以通常数位化是让更多的大众近距离的接触到它。
It's a lot of work, but it's worth it to ensure that the public can enjoy these priceless artifacts for generations to come. Leon Nien, Irene Wu, and Eric Gao for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Remember to download the TaiwanPlus app for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, today we leave you with images of monkeys in Thailand feasting on fruits and vegetables. And man, do they look hungry. I'm Jaime Ocon. Take care and see you next time.